How many times have you heard me say in my workshop video, sorry about my arm being in your field of vision? And I talked about making a little tripod. Well, today I'm going to make a little tripod, and I'm going to use leftover materials from other projects. This is from the camera steady stock. This is when I was cutting up those segments. This was when I did the video on does it leave lines. So this will be the bottom where nobody sees it. And this is a piece of aspen left over from when I was cutting up the segments. Well, this isn't really a leftover piece. This is actually a good piece. I guess I'm going to sacrifice it here. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. I drew out on the computer what I had in mind. And my first drawing, I realized it wasn't going to raise the camera up very high. And I was going to have some sort of double actuating or whatever you want to call scissor lift type thing going on here. So I came up with a second drawing. Now I really only need the top part of this. I don't need the whole thing. So I've drawn a little line here. Give me an idea of where to cut. And I might be able to use this larger section for something else in the future. The on-off switch for my table saw is just by my left leg, and I want you to notice something here. I used my leg to shut it off, and that way I was able to hold on to that little piece. Because the vacuum system was going, it would have got sucked in against the blade, and there was a chance it would come flying back at me. In a few minutes I'll be trying to round this thing off on the sander, and the table saw will take off any excess 100 times faster than the sander will. I think this is going to work out. Okay, it's going to go something like this. And that should give me a lift up almost 24 inches, I'm guessing. Don't need to go that high. Now this is going to be the part that the camera is actually going to be fastened to. Now my hope is that I don't have to go and buy any hardware. I got this left over from the camera steady stock. And if you're like me, you save all kinds of nuts and bolts and washers. That will almost do it. especially if I recess the nut and the head. Here, this one might even be better. Oh, a little bit. I'd forgotten I had those. That'll be good. Something like this might go here. Alright, we'll see what we can do here. You know what would be a lot nicer is if I could somehow use these knobs instead of just straight nuts and bolts. I think this used to be a broom handle. But if I was to cut it just the right length here, very carefully. Okay. Then drill a hole right up the middle. That would then when I draw these two pieces together, this will hold them apart, make everything nice and tight. Now I know I could probably get the hole dead center if I was to put this in my lathe, but it'd probably take me about 10-15 minutes to set everything up. So I'm just going to do the best I can here. It doesn't have to be perfect. All it has to do is act as a spacer. See what happens. Well, maybe I better get the pliers. So I'm using a piece of paper here to minimize the damage to the dowel, I guess you'd call it. And here we go again. It's almost through. Well, as you can see, it's off center, but that's okay. Okay, now for the scissor arms. And the idea of the bolt here is so that the holes will be the same distance apart on each arm. Now this is the bracket that is going to be glued securely to the base, and those scissor arms are going to be bolted so that they can swivel up and down on this bracket. You'll see. And this is the idea. Now I am a little bit concerned that even though I have these joints tightened up really tight, the weight of the camera is still going to collapse the tripod down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut rubber washers and insert them in between so that it sort of binds. Wonder why they put that clay stuff on the inside of the inner tubes. This is a brand new tube, never been used. So I only need 6. This shouldn't be too hard to do. And there's 6. You notice the empty container of 020 oil? The other night it went down to -29 here in Winnipeg. Right now that fellow in Australia who sends me those nice comments, he's probably in nice warm sunshine. Well, there we go. 1. My concern now is that these joints may not be able to be tightened up enough so that the camera, the weight of the camera, doesn't slowly collapse the whole thing. I think it'll be okay. This is the bottom of the base, and I've just countersunk here so that the head of the screw won't be proud of the bottom of the base. That way it won't rock if it's sitting on something flat. Well, mind you, I'm planning on putting little felt feet around the outside, so it would raise it up a tiny bit anyway. You know what? I should have put the glue on here. Oh boy. Too soon old, too late smart. Okay, so I put the lead screw in right there. Now I can adjust this back and forth, get it just the right spot, and I'll tighten up the other 3 screws. And it should be okay. Get rid of the squeeze out. But like I said, it's not going to be entered in a beauty contest. Now I was thinking that if I was to shorten this block a little bit, take about 1/4 of an inch off, I'd be able to use this bolt to screw up into the bottom of the camera. It'd be just perfect. Now, needless to say, this can't go through that hole. So it's going to have to be back a bit from it. Try it about there. Yeah, I think that's going to work. So the idea is, when I'm working here, I'm not getting my arm in front of the lens here, because the lens is shooting, the camera's shooting this way. And as you can see on the monitor there, I can keep an eye on what I'm doing. I can see my basic settings in case I want to change something. And this little green area right here, that indicates the what I'm focusing on right now. If I push the focusing button, it focuses perfectly on that little area. Anyway, I think you can basically see what's happening here. And yes, the little tripod works.